Louise Bourgeois was born on Christmas Day in Paris in 1911 and lived until 2010. During her 98 years on this earth, she had a career that lasted almost 8 decades, during which she influenced the art world significantly. So much so that the director of the Tate Modern in London, Frances Morris, stated that she couldn't imagine any young British artist who was not influenced by her work, which can be extended to many nationalities as she has exhibited in countless countries including Germany, Spain, Italy, Qatar, and Sweden, to name a few. Because of the abstraction and focus on the unconscious in her works, as well as the time that they were made in, Bourgeois is sometimes categorized with the Surrealists. However, Bourgeois rejected this notion and considers herself more of an existentialist or absurdist. She actually despised the Surrealists and their movement, most notably because of their father figure presence and how they, in her mind, invaded America during the war after she had just arrived 2 years earlier. She also frequently commented on the absence of women represented in their movement, other than those of model or muse status. Throughout her 75-year-long career, Louise Bourgeois' artwork was primarily inspired by her childhood memories with her parents, specifically those having to do with her emotionally abusive father and his live-in mistress, Sadie, who was also the children's tutor. Growing up in this odd relationship caused Bourgeois emotional turmoil. She was a pawn used by her mother to keep track of her father. All the while, she was fighting Sadie for his love and attention, conflictingly wanting Sadie and her father's affection, yet loathing them for betraying her. Bourgeois created The Destruction of the Father in 1974, shortly after her husband, Robert Goldwater, died. This was an extremely stressful time in her life, which is, as she claimed, why she was thinking about her father with such anger. With her husband no longer there to stand between her and her demons, and the despair and loneliness brought from his passing, Bourgeois began to spiral back into a depression. The destruction of the father was her way of releasing her emotions in a non-destructive way, most likely preventing her from attempting suicide again. Bourgeois describes the work as an oral drama. It represents the family dinner table where every night her father would boast about the amazing things he had done. However, in this sick fantasy, Bourgeois finally hears enough of it and rips her father apart, tearing off his penis, emasculating him, and serves him for dinner. In this way, she liquidated him like he had liquidated her and her siblings. The table is surrounded by large, round protrusions from the floor and ceiling, which could be seen as molars in the mouth of Bourgeois used for consuming the remains of her father. With soft, warm lighting and no sharp edges, the claustrophobic room could also be interpreted as a vagina or womb, representing the female taking control from the patriarchy. This horrifying fantasy stems from the countless times Bourgeois' father would embarrass her at dinner parties by performing a sort of trick for the guests in which he would peel an orange in a way that it would look like a figure. He would then compare it to his daughter, saying it looked like her, but then pointing out a phallic shape that would sometimes occur and mentioning her lack of anything there. This belittling scarred Bourgeois and stayed in her mind for the rest of her life. Shown here is her recounting and demonstrating her father's party trick.
So I would blush. I would die on the spot in front of everybody. You know, I was not a man. I was not a man. I was only a woman who didn't have anything there.
Bourgeois' use of memory in her pieces is what makes them so profound and emotional. She used her art to keep herself balanced, as she was, as she described herself, a person of emotional extremes. When asked about why she used the past for inspiration, she stated that she was not interested in the past per se, but used it as a tool to understand the present. She described her work as being exclusively interested in the here and now. Bourgeois has said that memory is important to her because it makes her feel in control. She decides how to remember the past, at times changing it as she did with a photograph of her brother, and her father at Deauville, where she scratched her father out in order to remember the fun she had had with her brother without the disdain she had felt towards her father and Sadie, his mistress. She also wanted to give her work permanence, therefore giving her memories permanence, since they are usually evanescent. Seeing as her work continues to be exhibited around the world today, I'd say she succeeded in this.
So you have it.